Hi again, 4th grade. In this video, we're going to be going over math lesson 6.5. We're going to be exploring equivalence between tenths and hundredths. Have a piece of paper out in front of you and a pencil or a whiteboard and whiteboard marker. You guys know the drill. All right, you guys. So again, we're looking at equivalence between tenths and hundredths. So it only makes sense to start off with this. Do you think this equation, 3/10, is equivalent to 30 hundredths? Do you think this is true? Do you think that 3/10 is equivalent to 30 hundredths? Well, it might help to rewrite them as fractions to help us in exploring this. So how would we write 3/10 as a fraction, my friends? It's not a trick question. 3/10. We would write it with 3 in our numerator and 10 in our denominator. 3/10 is equal to, and then 30 hundredths. All right, so 30 in our numerator, 100 in our denominator. All right, 3/10 is equal to 30 hundredths. All right, so we have them written in decimal form and fraction form. What do you guys think? Do you think these are equivalent to one another? Maybe you pause the video and talk about it with a family member or a sibling. What do you think? Maybe you work it out on a piece of paper. Use some numbers to help you or use some pictures to help you. What do you think? All right, you guys. Well, hopefully you were able to discuss it or work through it on your own. But there's a way that we can test whether these are equivalent or not. Do you guys remember from Module 5 how we can make equivalent fractions? How do we make equivalent fractions? You're right. We do it by multiplying or dividing by the same number on the numerator and denominator. Okay, so let's give this a try. I'm just going to erase my board so I have more space. So I want you on your paper to write out 3/10. Okay, so 3/10. All right, and we want to see if 3/10 is equivalent to 30 hundredths. Right? So, is there something we can multiply 3 by and 10 by to get 30 hundredths? Let's start with the numerator. Is there anything we can multiply 3 by to get 30? You're right, it's 10. So 3 times 10 gives us 30. Let's see if I can write upside down. Oh, that was not very good. So, nope, not going to write upside down. So 3/10 times 10 equals 30. And then remember to find equivalent fractions. What's that rule? We need to multiply by the same number on the top and the bottom. So let's just see what would happen, because we know that to get this to 30, we have to multiply 3 times 10. For it to be equivalent, we have to multiply by the same number on the bottom. So even if it's not equivalent, we at least know that we've checked. So 10 times 10 is 100. All right, you guys. Did we just prove that 3/10 is equivalent to 30 hundredths? You bet we did. We multiplied by 10 over 10, and we got 30 hundredths. Again, when you multiply by the same number on the top and the bottom, you get a equivalent fraction. So 3/10 is equivalent to 30 hundredths. Alrighty. What would this look like in a visual model? If you think, I want you to think back to Module 5. How would we show this in a visual model? What would that look like in a visual model? Well, we're actually going to go over that right now, because you're going to have to use this later on when you do some practice. So you guys, we have here, I already drew it out for you. I have 3/10, right? And if I wanted to do this, right, and wanted to make an equivalent fraction multiplying by 10 over 10, what could I do? What would I do? Well, if I want to multiply by 10, that means that I'm going to make 10 rows, right? So this is going to be kind of interesting. So I'm going to split this into 10 parts going this way. What I always like to do, you guys, since 10 is an even number, and there's going to be the same number on each side, I always start by splitting it in two, and then I do, I split it. And you know what, you guys, this is not going to be super pretty, but that's okay. As long as it still represents the value that we want, you know, it's okay if it's not perfect, which it's not. Alrighty, so here we just showed 3/10 times 10 over 10 to get 30 over 100. Right, we had 3/10 to start with, and then we split them each 10 times. And now each of these columns has 10. So 10, 20, 30, and there's 100 total. Awesome. So we can use multiplication to prove it. Is there another way that we can prove that 3/10 is equivalent to 30 hundredths? You're right, there is. What if we started with 30 hundredths, you guys? What would happen if we started with 30 hundredths? How can we test if 30 hundredths is the same as 3/10? Remember, think equivalent fractions. We can multiply by the same number on the top and the bottom, or we can divide. Awesome. So we want to get to 3/10, remember? 30 divided by what gives us 3? 30 divided by 10 gives us 3. And 100 divided by 10 gives us 10. Again, we didn't have any other option because to get an equivalent fraction, we have to multiply or divide by the same number on the top and bottom. So we can also use division to show that 3/10 is the same as 30 hundredths. All right, you guys. So let's just look at how that would look like on our visual model. So this is really great review from Module 5. If we were to show that that 30 hundredths is equal to 3/10, how could we do that? What would you do to this visual model? Think about it. What would you do to this visual model? Well, if you remember from Module 5, we would split into 10 groups, right? So we can show what we just did here on our visual model, making 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 groups. I know it's not really clear or very neat, but I see that out of the 10 groups that I made, 3 of them are shaded. So this shows me that 3/10 is equal to 30 hundredths, which also means, you guys, that 3/10 is equal to 30 hundredths. I know this is kind of messy, but I think you guys get the picture. All right. Now that we've done that, you guys, there's one other thing that I want us to accomplish. And you guys are kind of going to explore it a little bit. I want you guys to write down the fraction 1 46 hundredths. 1 46 hundredths. All right. Let's write this as a decimal first. 1 46 hundredths. What might that look like? You're right. 1 46 hundredths. All right, you guys. So now that we've seen, our equivalence between hundredths and tenths, I want you to explore how we can use number lines to represent decimals and fractions, but focusing on our decimals. So you guys, you might want to think back to yesterday's lesson 6.4, on, breaking this up into its tenths and hundredths. That might help you when you make a number line. So if you were to show 1 46 hundredths on a number line, and you are going to do this on your own, think about where your number line should start and end. I'll give you a hint. It's less than 2. 1 46 hundredths is less than 2, but it's more than 1. So that might help you when making your number line. I want you guys, like I said, think about the tenths and the hundredths. That's really going to help you in drawing your number line. All right, you guys, so I want you to explore this a little bit. We will go over this in one of our Zoom meetings, but I want you guys to explore it on your own. Alrighty, guys, so rewatch the video if you need any more tips or guidance. Thank you for tuning in, and like I said, we will discuss this in our Zoom meeting. All right, great work, you guys, and I will see you next time.